Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. So in today's video, we will be using DBT to transform MySQL data. So what we will do is we will load data to MySQL database, and we will use DBT to transform that data, and we will write the transformed data back to MySQL database. So let's get to it. So like I mentioned in this video, we will be using DBT to transform data that is sitting in MySQL database. So in the previous video, we went through the process of configuring DBT to connect to MySQL database. And this was a structure that we came up with after we did that setup. Okay, so we initialized our DBT and it created automatically for us this structure. So it created the analysis, it created logs, macros, models, seeds, snapshots, target tests, and also we have this DBT project that was also created when we did our setup. So I'm going to put the link for that previous video in the description if you have not watched, so that you can take a look and go through the setup if you want to also follow along in this video. But before we go further, if you are new to the channel, please do take a second and click the subscribe button so that you can be notified next time I release a similar video. All right, so let's get to it. So what are the processes that we need to follow now so that we can be able to have DBT transform data that is in MySQL database? So the first thing that we definitely do need to have is our MySQL database server downloaded and installed. And if you don't have that, I also made a previous video where I went through the process of installing and downloading, but basically downloading and installing MySQL server into your local environment. So that video I will also put it in the description so that you can go check it out if you want to have your environment set up for MySQL. But for me, I have it set up, and then and I can just show it to you right now. So this is the workbench, MySQL workbench. And in the last video, we also created this schema, CK Data Tech. And we used this schema in our profiles. So that means that when we transform our data, that data is going to end up here. So, I'm going to just quickly show you. If you go to your profiles directory or profiles files, you can see that we have our connections here set up. So it's pointing to that schema. Okay, so it's pointing to that MySQL schema right here. Okay, so this is my workbench again, and if you already have it set up, then great. If you don't, then definitely do check that video so that you can also have the local environment set up for you. Now, what we will need to do is that we need to load data to this database or MySQL. So right now I don't have anything. This is the sys database, comes by default when you install the data, the server. And this is the schema that we created, and you can create a schema for yourself. It's just as easy as right clicking here and creating a schema. Okay, so I did create this schema, and what we will do is we will be using this schema to write our transform data to. But right now we don't have any data right here. We don't have data in this database. So the next thing that we need to do, because this video again is about transforming data that is already loaded to the database, and we use DBT to transform that data. And that is usually what happens when you're using DBT, because DBT is not an ingestion tool, it is a transformation tool. So it only transforms data that you already have in your database. So if you have some other ETL tool that is bringing the data, then that will be another process. So what I'm going to do in this video now, before we get deep into DBT, is load data to this database. And you might already have data for yourself, but what I have noticed is a lot of people get stuck once they install DBT and they have the database set up or installed. They get stuck on where to get the data. So what I'm going to do in this video is I will show you where you can get the data, how to bring that data to your database, and then how you can now set up your DBT environment and do some basic transformations on the data that you have brought in. Okay, so for this, let's go ahead and actually bring some data to our database. So for that, I have this website here called MySQL tutorial, and I'm going to put this one also in the description of this video so that you can go and download the data as well if you want. But this is a website that is actually pretty neat if you are practicing with SQL or you're practicing your SQL skills. This website gives you a lot of resources that you can use to practice when you're learning SQL. So it goes through the process of installing the server, connecting to it, and how to download the sample database. So I'm going to use the sample data that we have here, but you don't have to follow this. If you already have your data, then that's great. But for me, I'm just going to use this sample database that is mentioned here. This is called classic models, and I think it's pretty popular for beginners if you want to practice SQL. Again, this website is good if you are practicing SQL. So you can even, if you don't want to use DBT or practice DBT, you can come. You can still come to this website and download this data and load it to your uh, MySQL database and still practice with it. Okay, so it's a pretty good website if you want to get something quick to 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 follow that is already ordered. So I'm going to go ahead and uh, click my sample. Again, if you go to load database, it's going to bring you to this first step here where you can download the data. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. If you scroll down here, you will find here where it says download my SQL sample database. So I'm going to hit that, and it is going to download it to my downloads directory. I'm going to go there and save it, and I will open it. Okay, so if you open it, you can see that this database uh, is creating for you the schema or the database, and it's also creating some additional tables for you that you can use, and it's loading data to those tables as well. Okay, so what we expect to do, what we expect to see is that when we load this, we expect to see these tables created. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we have 8 tables that we expect to be created. So I'm going to copy this, and you can just copy this because it's a DDL script that is ready to go. I'm going to copy this, and I will come to my workbench here, and I will paste that. Okay, so I'll just paste that like that, and you can see that this DDL I don't see any error. Again, this DDL is ready to go, and it is built specifically for MySQL. So I think if you run this in another database like SQL Server, Oracle, it probably will not run because of syntax differences. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. Again, if you see here, we don't have any classic models schema. So this is going to be created, and we expect to see a schema called classic models, and again it's switching to it, so it creates it, switches to it, and creates the additional tables. So I'm going to execute this, and if you scroll down here, at the end you can see that it's been inserted. Let's lift that one up so you can see it goes through the process of creating the schema right here. Actually, it creates the database or the schema, switches to it, drops these tables. You can see these are warnings here because we did not have these tables available. and then it goes ahead and creates those tables, inserts to them, and does some basic selects. Okay, so this is good to go. If you refresh here, we should be able to see it. There we go. So you can see that classic models now is loaded. All right. So if you did not want to practice with DBT and you just want data to be loaded to your database, you can uh, pick it up from here. Okay, so you have your data here, and I mean, if you see and you select these customers, you can see that we do have data for that. Let's put this one down. How do we do that? This workbench is interesting. Let's do that. Where is the output? Right there. Okay. Yeah, it's a very weird thing going on here. Okay, but you can see now that you have your customers data here. You can see the columns also, and you can also go to employees and see the same. All right, so you can see your data is available in your tables now. Okay, so now that we have our data loaded, the next thing that we'll do is use DBT. So we want to set DBT to read from these tables or some of these tables, do some transformations, and write back the transformed data to one of the schemas. Okay. So at least now the first stage is done. We have ingested our data. Now we can do our transformations. So again, in DBT follows the model of ELT. So where you are extracting, as your first stage, you're extracting your data. You are loading your data to the database or this data warehouse. So that loading piece is what we just did. And then after that, now we transform the data. So DBT again stands at the end of that ELT, so transformation piece. And that's what we're going to do now, all right? So we have our data here now. Then now what we need to do is go back to our Visual Studio. And right here, we have our project here. But now to do the transformations, the transformations actually sit inside models, okay? So we have analysis, models, seeds, snapshots. Models is where your transformation queries sit in, or models. Transformation queries. And mostly these are just select statements, select transformation statements. So those ones live inside your models. Seeds is where you put your static files like CSV files that you want to reference in your models, and these are mostly static, they don't change that much. Snapshots is where your type 2 logic goes. So if you have data that slowly changes over time and you want to track those changes and fashion them, you put them in snapshots. This is where your models go for snapshots. In this video, we will only concentrate on models part. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to go back to that website, and what I will do is I will see what they have done in one of these tutorials that they have here, and I'm interested in joins. So if I go to inner join, for example, we can see what joins they have done. So here it's just basically explaining how inner join works and all of that, and goes ahead and does some queries here for you. So I'm going to pick one of the joins that they have here. So here they are joining 3 tables. Let's see if they have more. Okay, so this last one here looks like they have about 1, 2, 3, 4 tables. This might be a good example to use, which is right here. Okay, so here they have 1, 2, 3, 4 tables. So I'm just going to copy this, copy, and I will bring it here. So the first thing that we need to do when we are creating our models is to create a schema.yml. And this schema.yml basically is where you put your configurations for the source, where your source data is coming, and how your models will be materialized. And you can put other things like tests, documentations, and more and more. So you can write it as schema.yaml. Any name can go here. You can put any name, but it has to be a YAML file. So this is where you put your documentations, and then now your transformation SQLs will be .sql. So I'm going to name this as orders.sql like so, and I will just paste that query here so that we have it. Okay. So when you see this query uses about four tables, it uses orders, it uses order details, it uses products, it uses customers. So what we want to do is in our YAML file, we want to bring these tables. So to do that, we will go ahead and do fashion, and this is version 2. Again, this is just a standard way in which DBT recommends that you write your configuration YAML files. This version 2 here is not the version for DBT, it is the current version for the configurations. So these are YAML files. And this is the current version is basically telling DBT that I want you to use version number 2 to read and understand the YAML configurations. So it's using this version. I think the previous ones have been deprecated, but you can read in the website more about this. But this is just so you don't get confused, not the version of DBT. It is the configuration YAML version of it. Okay, so what we do now after this is we put our sources, and this basically will get the source. Where are you getting your data from? Okay, so this is going to point to our database. And the name for our source here, I will put it as classic models. And this is just a name. It can be anything. This is good when you are calling it in your downstream snapshot. Sorry, in your downstream models. It's not exactly the name of your schema. It's just the name of your source. So you can have many sources, and you can customize it whichever way you need. Okay. And then I'm going to put here schema, and now this is very important. This is now going to be the schema for where your data is sitting in your database. So we have this one as classic models, and you can see that one. If you go to our workbench, you can see classic models. So this is going to be our schema or database. Okay. So you have to put that one like so. You can also put description if you want. So you can say sample database. Okay. And then now we can proceed and list our tables. All right, so we can proceed and list our tables, and the tables that we are using, these are those tables. So I'm just going to copy this and bring it over here like so. So we are using orders table. Okay, so we will put it here, and we have 4 of this. So I'm just going to copy 4 times. So these are the names of the tables in our source database. So the second one we have is order details. I'm going to copy that, put it here, order details. Next one is products. All right, products. And then the next one is customers. Okay, so these are the 4 tables that we use in our transformation query. Now, again, like I mentioned, this is going to be very basic. If you are doing a production project, there's a lot of things that you can do here. You can put your column descriptions here and specify how that column can be tested, which one is unique, null, and some other relationships to some other tables and things like that. So that is going to be the more robust one, but I'm just going to show you the very basic one, and then from there you can build up on it. Okay, so these are our 4 tables, and now the next thing that we need to do is we specify our models. And as we can see here, our model, we only have one model here, and it is going to be called orders. And you don't have to do the .sql. It just understands that, just put the orders. It understands that this is .sql, as always it is. And then the next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to specify the configurations, and I will say this one should be materialized as a table, and the alias for this should be orders table tbl, like that. Okay, so I'm going to explain this. So materialization in DBT is basically how your model is going to be created in your target database. So there are three ways. I think there are three or probably more. There's a table, there's a view, there's a materialized view in some databases that support it, and there's ephemeral. So table, when you specify as a table, it's when the table is created, or when this model is created in your database, it's going to be created as a physical table. If you put it as a view, it's going to be created as a view. Materialized view, the same. And if you put it as ephemeral, does not persist into your database. And if you go to your project here, you can see that we also have some more configurations here. You see here, initially we had an example here, and it was going to say anything that is inside this example folder, materialize it as a view. So by default, if you don't specify that in your downstream configurations, then by default it's going to take what you have in your project. So in this case, this model orders, when we run it, it's going to create a table. Okay, and the name of the table, because you're aliasing here, basically we're changing the name, it's going to create a table called orders table. Now if you don't specify this part here, then it is going to just take the name of the model. So it's going to create a table called orders, and I'm going to show you this when we run this model. Okay, but with regards to our YAML file, I think we are good to go. We have our sources, we have our source here, we have our tables that we are going to be using, and we have our model here configured. Now the next thing that we need to do is we go back to our model now, and this is where we need to write our transformation. Okay, so this is where you write your joins and everything. And in DBT, it is recommended that you use CTEs, common table expressions. But if you just want to write select statements, that's fine. It still works. But just for readability, I think the recommended way is to write CTEs. And CTEs, if you see something that starts with this keyword called with, then that you know that this is a common table expression. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to call this prepared as, and I'm going to put the rest of this query here. Okay, and remember I got this query from that website, so I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to use the same it is. The only thing that I will change is the tables here, the way we reference. Okay, so here again, this is getting all of these columns from these tables and doing joins. All right, so doing some basic transformations. Now in DBT, to call your source tables, you have to use changer templating. Okay, so changer templating is how DBT references either your other models or your sources. So remember, you have your sources here, and you want to call them in your model. So how do you do that? If you leave it like this, DBT is not going to understand. It's not going to understand what this is, not going to understand what this is, all of this. So you have to use a language that DBT understands and interprets. So to do that, we use this keyword called source. And source basically means you are going to your YAML file, and you are going to a part called sources, and you are going to get the tables listed there. Okay, so we have so if we go here now, we will get our name. The name of the source is this one, classic models. We will bring that here, put it like that. And in that classic model, we want to bring the first table called orders, and we put it right here like that. Okay, so this is going to be our our orders table now. And in the source, the classic model source, remember we have this is again the name, that a custom name that we put, and it's going to go to this source. It will understand that inside this source there is a schema called classic models, and there are tables inside that schema. So it's just going to scan through this and say, okay, now my table class, my table orders is inside classic models, and the name of this is something that we just put it here so that we can use in our queries. Okay, so this is how you do it. All right, and then we have to put some space here. All right, so once we do that, let's do the same thing now. I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to do the same thing here for order details. Just copy that, sorry, copy this and put it right here like so, and we will get this one, put it right here like that. Okay, and just going to delete this space here. We will continue to do the same thing for the rest of these other tables. Okay, and I will do the same thing with this last one here, and we are just going to clean this up. Yeah, so we are going to put products here, and then I will remove this, and then the last one is this one for customers, and I will put that one right here like so. Okay, so remember there should be no spaces here at the end here. Okay, so we have our model now ready with all of the tables, and the source, it's calling the source which we have defined in our YAML file here. So I think we should be good. The last thing that we need to do here is just call this CDE. So we are going to do select star from prepared. Okay, like so. And I think we should be fine now. So we have our tables created and everything. So now the next thing that we will do is go ahead and run this model. Okay, so again, let's go back to our database, and we can see that we only have these three schemas. So when we run this model, what we expect to see is a table called orders TPL, and it is going to be created in this schema CK data deck. And the reason for that again is because that is what uh, we had configured in our profiles. Okay, in our profiles. So right here. Okay, so we had CK data deck. So that means that whenever we run our models, the transform data is going to be written inside that schema. All right, right here. So we have that one ready now. We have our YAML file ready. We have our transformation ready. Remember, we use this source to refer to our sources. Okay, so now to run this model, what we need to do is just click DBT and run. And this DBT and run is just going to run all of your models. So for me, I only have one model, but if you have a lot of other models and you don't want to run them, then you can use this select and just put orders. Okay, so I'll probably just use that. Just select orders, and this is going to run our orders and create the table in our database. So just go ahead and click enter. Okay, see, it successfully went through. So you can see that we have created a table called orders table here inside this schema called CK data deck. And it's successfully created. So if we go back to our database now and refresh it, you can see that we have a table created. So you can see this table created and if you select, we should be able to see the transform data written here. Okay, so that is our transform database now. So remember, we didn't have to do anything manually here. We just did DBT. We configured in DBT, and DBT did the magic for us. Okay, like I told you, it's going to create a table called orders TPL, and we can see it is orders TPL. Okay, and it was that way because we made the configurations right here. Okay, we said that we want to run this orders model, and we want to change the name to orders TPL. So if we didn't want this orders TPL to be the table name, and we just want DBT to take the name of the model that we have specified here, then what we will do is I'm going to remove this, and what I will do actually is I'm going to change the materialization for this to be a field. Okay, and I'm going to save it. If you see now, we don't have any field here, but if we create this, you will see orders. A name of the field will be orders because we didn't specify the materialization here. So I'm going to go ahead and just run that again, like so. And you can see here, it's even mentions that it's a field, and the name of the field is orders, because it's just taking the name of the orders or the name of the model, and it's going to create it without name, without .sql path in your database. So if we go back in our workbench now, we should be able to see, if we refresh, additional field with orders. There we go, right there, and you can go ahead and query it. Okay, so that is what I wanted to show you guys in this video. Basically, how you set up your DBT. I mean, we did set up the DBT to connect to MySQL previously, and in this video I was walking you through the process of using DBT to do transformations for data that you have in your database. So we loaded data into our SQL database or MySQL database, and we use DBT to transform some of that data, and the transformed data, we wrote it back to our schema. And again, I showed you here two ways of doing that, through the alias when you alias the name, and how you can materialize it. So we did a table, and now we have done a field. Okay, so again, this was a very simple process. If you want to explore this now, you can go ahead and explore it, make it seem more robust, and you can play with it whichever way you want. All right, so again, I hope this was useful. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and do subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, and do share with your friends so that you can stay updated, and also let's grow this channel. Alright guys, I hope you like this video. I will see you next time. Bye bye.